First play of the game, we're going blind pig.
We're going to go blind pig.
Blind pig, yeah.
So I'm also a big fan of the blind pig action.
The only reason we're running this action now is because he wanted to say blind pig and look cool.
Hey basketball fan, welcome to the Blind Pig podcast with me, your host, Joseph Honour. We're about a month away from the Super League basketball season kicking off and everything's getting exciting. We're getting player announcements, the ENBL schedule's just dropped, and so now felt the right time to talk about 5 British players that I'm surprised haven't been announced yet in Super League basketball. But before we get to that, the channel is on a journey to try and hit 50 subs by the end of 2025. So please make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, hit us up on all socials as we cover all things Super League basketball. Starting off at number 5, I want to talk about Connor Washington and the Leicester Riders. And Connor Washington, 6-foot point guard, he's been around forever, been playing for Leicester since 2012. 12 successful seasons with the Leicester Riders, including 4 where he made the All-BBL team. Now, last season was kind of a downturn for Connor. He played some of the lowest minutes of his career at around sort of 10.5 per game. But you have to remember, the context is he's also playing behind Jalen Hunter, who last season was one of the best point guards. You know, he led the league in assists. And Connor did sustain a leg injury near the end of the season, which kept him out for a fair few games. At his age, he doesn't have the speed that he used to in terms of kind of the lateral movement or being able to turn corners really quickly and going downhill. That being said, though, he's a massive pair of safe hands. He knows the system, he knows the culture, and despite a downturn last season in his three-point percentage, I actually really trust him to take the right shots and to kind of knock down ones that really, really matter with a good level of consistency. More than anything, though, he's symbolic of Leicester Rider basketball, and the change from how he was signed in 24-25 to the absolute silence this season has been noticeable. So have a quick look. This is what they said when they signed Connor Washington last year. I'm absolutely delighted that we've signed Connor. He's proven his worth within the club for a number of years and is clearly a fan favourite. For him to be out of contract and choose to stay with us again for another season is really exciting. It's important for him to be here and mentor new players coming in. Having spoken to Connor, he's really fired up about next year, not only about playing, but also supporting the organisation however he can. That is a franchise player they're talking about right there. Maybe not necessarily in terms of leading the team to success on the courts, but in terms of what he brings and the value that he's bringing to an organisation. You know, that is really top tier. And to go from that to this season where we've heard absolutely nothing either from him or from the Riders about bringing him back, it's really, really jarring. I mean, this guy was a staple on DAZN. I can't tell you how many halftime shows where he was the DAZN special, the little featurette that talks about his life and how he got there. He was really being held up as a pinnacle, like a gateway of, you know, it can happen, guys. You can be someone born in England, a British player who can get to what was then the BBL, is now the SLB, and have a really sustained, long, successful career with one franchise. For my money, it's worth bringing back Connor Washington whenever every year, until he decides he doesn't want to play anymore. You keep bringing him back. Leicester is clearly shifting away towards kind of the youth movement. You know, you have young guys that I think are really, really good to come back in. So people like Victor Nduku, you know, he's going to be huge this season. And again, maybe taking on some of that mantle of, I'm the homegrown British talent that can be here and could be the fan favourites. There's also a huge amount of culture. So Victor was there last season. Duke Shelton's coming back, who was there last season. Spencer Johnson. There are players who are coming back who Coach Rob knows, who know the system, and hopefully can impart some of that continuity that I think is going to be so important going from last year into this year. Personally, I can't picture Connor Washington wanting to play anywhere other than Leicester. And so really it's kind of playing for the Riders or not playing at all as I see it. For me, I would love to see Connor back in a Leicester jersey. I think it'd be great to have him in the league for another year. I think he really does, you know, he knows the system, he brings culture, he brings presence, he brings leadership. But if he's not going to be coming back as a player, I say bring him back as a coach. Moving on to number 4, Josh Steele. And I know what you're thinking, Josh Steele, he's the guy who teaches me how to style my white t-shirt with different jeans on Instagram.
I think a truer thing has ever been said for something as simple and foundational as a t-shirt. However, this can kind of get complicated when just think about all the different kind of body types there are. And that's not even to mention like style and preference. What I'm going to attempt to do here is simplify all of that for you.
But no, Josh Steele actually is a basketball player. I'm just teasing Josh. Josh Steele's had a great career. Since 2017, he's played across both the UK and Spain. And during that time, he's a fairly known quantity. He's a tall guard, someone who can defend the 2 or 3, and depending on kind of size and athleticism, could probably defend the 4 as well. Offensively, he's someone who's really active off ball and looking to catch and shoot, or he's got a really nice drive middle and then pull up jump shot from the free throw line or just from the free throw line extended. In his BBL/SLB career, he's played the majority, so he's played 5 seasons with Surrey and just 1 with Manchester. And, last season wasn't his best season. He wasn't a world beater down there playing for the 89ers. There were games where he looked particularly off on the offensive end. Overall for the championship, he's playing 25 minutes a night, and he's someone who produced 6.2 points per game. Potentially not in the mark that I think Surrey were hoping for, bring him back for another season. One thing I think is surprising though about Josh Steele that wasn't the same with Connor Washington is that Surrey have obviously made it really clear to Josh that he's not coming back. Look what he said in his goodbye Instagram post. So for someone like Josh, you're looking round thinking, I've spent the majority of my career here, spots are getting filled up quite quickly, and from what I've seen, people aren't coming knocking. That being said, he's done some really great stuff this off-season. So he was down at the Hoops Fix Pro-Am, playing for the team SBB, and he clearly looked to step above the majority of the other players. He was taking a lot more mid-range pull-ups than he did while he was with Surrey last season. And, I'm not an analytical whiz, but for me, just the eye test in terms of his flow that he was finding in those games was just so much better. I think giving him a bit more freedom was really, really important. Freedom to get kind of downhill and attack, and also to attack in his spots, being in the mid-range. And, that's not going to be that's not going to be a shot with, particularly high efficiency, but it's his shot. That is a shot that looks so pretty when it comes off. That being said, also had a huge amount of fun watching Josh Steele play one-on-one in ISO hoops, where he dropped some absolutely monster highlights.
12-6 right now to Luca. Catch and shoot, man. Jesus. Catch and shoot still. That's his shot right there. I want to catch and shoot. He makes one. He makes one. Fair play.
Fair enough.
No, they don't. Oh. He's getting. All right, let's go.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's go. Bring it up. That was a game. Another foul, and that'll be a free throw to Justin. Come on. Yeah.
So for Josh, if he's going to stay in the league, for me, I only see one real option, and that's Newcastle. I think under the guidance of Stutel, he can unlock Josh a little bit more on the offensive end. And Newcastle, to be honest, is a team that could do with that extra depth. Coming in at number 3, we have RJ Eytle-Rock. The Barking Abbey product looked absolutely fantastic in 23-24 with his first professional season with Sheffield. However, when Sheffield were purchased by Vaughan Millett, and they pumped a lot more resource, a lot more money in the team, looking to make that significant jump, RJ was one of the people who got lost in the shuffle then. I don't think he did necessarily anything wrong when he was with the Sharks. I actually think he was really good, solid defensively, shot well from deep, but there were just other players out there that offered a little bit more upside and a little bit more consistency. Either way, regardless, he fell to Cheshire and he signed with them in 24-25, and this is what Ben Thomas said. RJ is a big guard, someone that will be able to play on and off the ball as required. We've got to let me know in the comments. Did you guys ever see RJ really playing the role of a distributor on the Cheshire team? I flipping didn't. I didn't see any of that. He's someone, when he has the ball in his hands, yes, he can create minor separation, whether that's attacking downhill or potentially going for kind of a pull-up. But I didn't see anything to the major extent that Ben's talking about there. If I'm really honest, for RJ, I think the system kind of screwed him last season. I just don't think that he is a type of player that is designed to thrive in Cheshire Phoenix basketball. Last season, his points, assists and rebounds all went down. Fundamentally, it's not the quickest release that he has from three, and that is never going to fly in the type of up and down tempo that Ben Thomas is looking to kind of introduce. Defensively, he's solid in his system, but doing what pressure do, pushing full court, trying to generate high pressure defense that leads to the other team to commit turnovers, that doesn't feel like his game at all. At the end of the season, he did have a hamstring injury, and again, that kept him out for kind of a significant period of time. But he played in the Hoops Fix Pro-Am Summer League. He looked good in there. So again, I think, hopefully that's a sign that he is recovering well on the roads. And again, similar to Josh, he looked good. He looked better than the majority of the players there. He was racking up points with ease and playing in his own game. I really, really liked how his three-point shot looked there. And I also really liked that he was committing to his Euro step in his own speed, in his own time, with a lot better finishing rates. It's the age-old thing, I think, that kind of fit is everything. And I think RJ can contribute, but I don't think that he can contribute playing for Cheshire. And so when you look again around the league, where are these people going to go? For me, fit's important, but opportunity is also important as well. And I'd like to see him go to Caledonia as maybe the 6th or 7th man coming off the bench. And I think, honestly, that provides him with the best upside to really be able to shine, to play his game, to be able to play within a system with other players, but also not one where he's been pressured into a role that maybe necessarily doesn't fit within his skill sets. He's 2 seasons in to his professional career. I think it would be a real shame if RJ didn't get a shot to come back for season 3 and to show us how much he's worked on his game. And so for one, I'm really hopeful and really excited and really want RJ to come back for season 3. Coming in at number 2, I know you guys are going to love this one because I love me some Evan Walshe. And honestly, I'm mind blown that he already hasn't been announced as coming back to Bristol. Bristol last season, they had their ups and downs. They definitely didn't get their job done anywhere near close when they got through to their first trophy final. But Evan personally took a huge step forward. Now, the stats don't necessarily show that from his year with Manchester to his year to Bristol last year, but I actually think how he played in both the SLB and in ENBL play was really, really positive. The things that he was doing well, coming off the bench and being that real energy player, bringing fire. And there's a reason, that he was the only person in SLB to record a triple-double. That's because he was willing to do whatever Coach Kapoulis and the Flyers asked him to do, whether that was scoring, whether that was setting up teammates, whether that was rebounding. I think Evan had a really nice all-round game, and it was really fun, to be honest, to watch him play basketball and get to the hoop with those tough and ones that we really, really love to see. When he signed originally with Bristol, this is what was said. It feels like a perfect match. I have a familiarity with Andreas, having worked with him in the GB under-20s, and although we've only been in practice for a week or 2, we have a great understanding already. He knows what I'm going to give every night, and I know what he expects. So I'm very happy and excited for what we can achieve together. As far as I can see, nothing's changed. He is still that player that you can depend on, that's reliable. And actually, he played a huge part in Bristol's off-court work. He was a real regular fixture in the Bristol Flyers podcast and really represented a lot of what you want in a franchise like Bristol. Someone who is willing to be open with the fans, someone who's committing to the programme and lifting others up. There are a lot of good intangibles that Evan Walshe was giving as a young, exciting British talent in SLB. This off-season, he had a minor thumb injury which kept him out for some pro games, but he did end up playing in 3x3 for GB, and from the latest reports that we've seen, there's just rumours circulating online that he's going to continue on the professional circuits of the 3x3 tour with longtime friend Ashley Hamilton. And by all accounts, the professional season ends sometime in January. And so the question is, Bristol don't seem to be holding a spot for you. You know, the players they've announced, they've already announced a fair few guards. So Cam Holden, Pasquale Landolfi, Joe Anderson, Zach Anderson, and Jonathan Brown. Those are 5, you know, pretty decent guards. That's a really good rotation there. Are we really going to say that they're holding out a spot for a 6th combo guard to come in? You know, potentially. I'm not so sure. But it leaves me with loads of questions in thinking about actually, you know, when the 3x3 circuit ends, where does Evan Walshe go? Personally, if I'm Bristol, I'm doing everything I can to keep Evan Walshe. Hold that spot for him and bring him back because he is brilliant. He is really, really good. And I think it'd be a mistake if he didn't re-sign to an SLB team this season. And finally, my top player who I'm surprised has not yet been re-signed in Super League basketball is Jamell Anderson. Shout out Nottingham, Jamell, Nottingham's own. Jamell's had an awesome career, you know, played for a lot of different franchises, a lot of different teams, and last season playing for the Sheffield Sharks. Just from his stats, it looked like he really fell off. You know, he went down in rebounds and assists and way down both in points and field goal percentage, pretty much across the board. But if all you look at is the stats, then I don't think you really know the story of Jamell Anderson and the story of Sheffield last season. It was a team last year where there was a lot of firepower on the courts, but more than anyone, Atiba Lions trusted Jamell to be the glue guy, to show leadership, and to play the type of lockdown defence that Sheffield massively needed. As a Sharks fan, you know, there were times definitely at games when it was immensely frustrating to see him set a fantastic screen and cut back door to get the ball and then miss the layup. And, you know, some of those are like burned into my retinas, how frustrating they were. But at the same time, I have to tell the story of Game 2 against Cheshire Phoenix. Down 10 points on aggregate, going into that game, it was Jamell Anderson that set the tone. Okay, all the headlines were about Ricky McGill afterwards and his points and how fantastic they were. But there in the building, watching Jamell Anderson was absolutely unreal. The passion that he was playing with, the intensity on defence, that freaking dunk he threw down, like hellfire. That was so good. And that's what Jamell Anderson can do. He can bring that level of passion and intensity into a game. You might want to stop and ask, you know, well, where was that all season? You know, and I, if I'm honest, I think a lot of Sharks fans do say that. You know, when we saw the level in that Game 2 playoff game against Cheshire, when he was right up there, you do stop and pause and say, well, actually, why was that not there day in, day out? And maybe, you know, maybe it's a little bit that he wants to keep in the tank, keep some reserves for the game that really matter. Maybe it was something about opportunity and about, you know, the other people on the team. But coming into 25-26, I think the Sharks roster is shaping up pretty similarly, you know, as an offensive juggernaut, but also a lot of people who need the ball. You know, you can't shoot the ball if you don't have the ball in your hands. And so with that, you need somebody who can be a glue guy. And personally, I think we could all use a little bit more Jamell Anderson in our life. I really hope that he comes back to Sheffield Sharks. I think he's going to be the perfect complementary piece. But if he doesn't come back to the SLB, then the other thing that I would absolutely love to see for Jamell Anderson is I would love to see him joining the Nottingham Hoods. And just to clarify, Jamell Anderson would be the best player in British Championship basketball by far. He would absolutely dominate. But the opportunity to come back home, to play for that franchise, I think would be really, really exciting for the city, for him personally. And actually, I think when we look around the league and we think about which franchises potentially are going to make the step up into an SLB or they're going to SLB franchise out, I know Liverpool was talked about in a recent article from the Yorkshire Post, but actually for me, Nottingham makes a huge amount of sense in terms of a market that's ready for an SLB team. And I think it'd be really fantastic to see Jamell Anderson continuing to be part of that journey. A couple of honourable mentions, people that I didn't talk about that I could have put on the list. I was debating back and forth, should I? First off, Andrew Lawrence down in Surrey. Absolutely cracking season. Great point guard. Going now onto the older side of his career would probably be generous. But Andrew Lawrence, again, hasn't been re-signed. What do we know about him? Louis Weaver in Manchester. It was very much kind of the token young British player, but at the same time, there's been no mention of what's happening to Louis Weaver. Where's he going? What's he doing? Why did Manchester choose not to bring him back? Not necessarily Manchester's fault. You know, they've got lots of young British talent on their roster. But, you know, what's happening to Louis Weaver? And also Raf Thomas-Edwards in Bristol. I can only assume that Raf will be coming back to Bristol. He's doing all of their summer camps and he's in all of their Instagram posts. But nothing yet on Raf Thomas-Edwards. So a couple of honourable mentions kind of chucked in there as well for players that haven't yet been announced as re-signed in the SLB. There we have it. For me, those were the top 5 British players that have yet to be announced as re-signed in Super League basketball. You know, let me know what you think in the comments below. Who is your favourite British player that hasn't yet been re-signed? Who have I forgotten? And actually, do you know a reason that I don't for why these players haven't been signed yet? Either way, looking forward to hearing the banter and can't wait to catch you on the next one.
First play of the game, we're going blind pig.
We're going to go blind pig.
Blind pig, yeah. So I'm also a big fan of the blind pig action.
The only reason we're running this action now is because we wanted to say blind pig and look cool.